I'm Dr. Owen Anderson, and I'm a professor of philosophy. And many times in my classes, my students will bring up examples from pop culture, and they'll say, hey, what we're talking about kind of sounds like this movie or this TV show. And so one of those that came up is this current Netflix show, Squid Game. Now, let me put this up here. This is sort of a perfect show for ethical dilemmas. And my students were going over that ethical dilemmas. And my students said, hey, that's kind of like Squid Game. And I hadn't seen it. So I said, well, tell me about that. And so they were telling me a little bit about situations that arise in the show and set up ethical dilemmas for the characters. But it sounds like a very violent show. So it wouldn't be appropriate for kids. Now, we were also going over Augustine. Let me pull him up. And why is that relevant? Well, Augustine, in his Confessions, tells us about a friend he had who was an upright guy, but his friends asked him to go see the gladiators, the gladiatorial games, a circus. And this guy didn't want to go, but peer pressure being what it is, they prevailed upon him and he went, but he still didn't want to see the bloody gore part. So maybe you can see him kind of like this, but he saw a little bit and it intrigued him and he wanted to see more. And pretty soon he was just fascinated by these gladiators fighting and killing each other. And so this reminded me of what my students were telling me about Squid Game. And it reminded them, I pointed that out and said, yeah, that's just like people wanting to watch the gladiators. Now, the idea in Squid Game is that they're all in debt. All the contestants are in debt. They're from different stations of life, but they're in debt. And they get to play this game, various kids' games. And if they survive, they get money. I mean, that sounds like the gladiators. I would suppose gladiators probably had debts, right? And they're fighting for money, prestige. So this guy didn't want to go see it. Why not? Why was his conscience bothered by watching something violent? Now, a lot of our TV shows and movies are just like that. We might somehow think we're better than the Romans because they actually had people fighting and killing each other. And we just have people acting like they're fighting and killing each other, which is better. We don't want to have people killing each other, but we're still wanting to see that as if it was happening. So we could ask that question, what's the ethics of watching this kind of material? What good comes out of it for a person, for their soul? Well, to answer that, we'd have to know what is good, right? Knowing what is our highest good would help us know what kinds of things, kidneys of things, autocorrect is the best, right? What kinds of things are good or harmful to watch, right? So before we can answer that question, we'd have to know what's the good. What's not a good, like enjoyment's a good, passing some time is good, enjoying Friday night with some Netflix is good. But we're not asking about that. We're asking about what's the good. That would help us categorize these other things to see if they're really good or not, or we only think they're good. Is watching people play a game and kill each other or be killed for not winning good for us? Now, that's a question prior to saying, well, it's a helpful show because it raises ethical dilemmas within these stories for the players. This reminded me of the trolley example, right? Where a guy, you see a trolley coming and there's two tracks. On one of the tracks, innocent people are tied up. And on the other track, there's like a boulder that the trolley would crash into. And on the trolley are criminals. So do you make it so that say there's one criminal, but 5 innocent people tied up? Do you make it so the trolley runs over the 5 innocent people, or that it crashes and kills the criminal? They set it up like that. There's variations, permutations of the same thing. The idea being you're in charge and you get to decide, and it's based on numbers, right? More innocent people, because you'd say, yeah, I'll say 5 people for one. Okay, what if it's 5 and 5? 5 innocent people and 5 criminals. Well, they're criminals. Okay, what if it's 100 criminals or 5 innocent people? So this is playing with numbers, and you see some dilemmas like that will come up in the game. But also maybe the backstory is about the ethics or the lack of ethics in society, that these people are in such debt. How did that happen? And so really, I wonder if people are drawn to this and the gladiatorial games because they're seeing something of the human condition unfolding in this awful violence. Because the truth is, we're all on the path to death. We're all going to die. And so we somehow intuitively feel life is attacking us, trying to kill us, and we have to struggle to survive. And we like to see that displayed in a show, a circus. But the reality of death and struggle is more than surviving. It should make us stop and think about our condition. What are we? What is it to be a human? Where do we come from? What has existed from eternity, and what created us? Where are we going? What is our highest good, and how do we achieve it? So rather than just getting caught up in surviving in the human condition really is about the pursuit of meaning, the need for and pursuit of meaning by having true answers to these kinds of questions. That's what we're looking for. And the darkness, of skepticism and not knowing leads to meaninglessness, which is unbearable. We want to know. Otherwise, we might just get put into situations where we're treated like animals, like in the gladiatorial game, just watching them fight. So Squid Game and Augustine and the circus, the gladiators, Augustine's friend who at first didn't want to watch, and then he can't look away. It's intriguing. And our own need to stop and think about our condition. All of this comes up as my students are asking me about the Netflix show Squid Game.